Good morning, mamas. This is Christina, and I'm going to be talking about Chapter 3 in Desperate, and the chapter is called Formulas Don't Always Work. I guess I'm going to start off first by just telling you one good way that formulas did not work in my life. I am a super type A personality. I was your typical oldest child. I had my life planned out and I knew exactly what it was going to consist of. I got married right around the time I thought I would, and then we got pregnant 3 years in, which was exactly my plan. I was able to quit work, stay at home, and have 9 months to prepare for our firstborn child. In those 9 months, of course, I read every single book possible on natural parenting and birthing, and I was going to have this child with no medication, nothing intervening whatsoever between me and the beautiful birth of my healthy baby boy. About 4 weeks before I was supposed to deliver, they were noticing that I was measuring weird. So upon further figuring out, they realized that our son was breech, and not just any breech, but it was called frank breech, where his legs were literally up over his head. There was just no way he was going to come out that way. So the doctor wanted to schedule a C-section. Well, you can only imagine that I was devastated, and so I did everything possible to not have a C-section. Of course, I went straight to the library and checked out every single book and called everybody I knew to figure out how to get this baby to turn. Because he was my first, the doctor wasn't willing to try a version which would be manually turning him. He just said my body wouldn't handle that. So I did everything naturally possible to try and change the direction he was facing. I will spare you of the details, but let's just say it included ironing boards, laying upside down, flashlights, music, crazy spicy foods, any number of things. But at 38 weeks, there was a scheduled C-section because I was starting contractions, and our firstborn child was born under lights and medication and was accompanied by mommy being sewn up and stuck in bed for a few days and recovering from major surgery. That was not the plan. But God had a bigger plan. Our child was healthy, mommy was healthy, and I am pleased to say that my 3 births after that were able to be VBACs, and I was able to finally have the birth that I wanted. But the point of that story is I had planned for something that my child wasn't up for. He was letting me know from the very beginning that even though mommy's got plans for my life, I'm going to do things my way. And I even think that that was God's way of reminding me early on that his plans are bigger than my plans. I know there is so much out there for moms telling us how we should do things. We can Google anything and find 25 ways that moms have done it and all done it well. But the problem is every single way is going to be different because it works different for every person, every family. You can mold and figure out and find what works best for you. But the truth is there is not one formula to tell you how to raise your kids. And not one person can tell you exactly how to do it for you, because you know what works best for your family. And that is where a deep faith in God and a reliance on Him comes in. And that is basically the purpose of this chapter. Sally does talk about how it is important to determine the kind of family that we want. On page 36, she says, if you do not have a plan or a philosophy, then you will try to fit your life into other people's plans. And that's definitely true. My husband and I, every couple of years, figure out 5-year, 10-year, 15-year goals for our family. And then that gives us something to work towards. And then once we figure out those goals, then we sit and write a list of ways that we're going to accomplish those goals. I can honestly tell you that 80% of the time, when I look back on the goals we have written and the ways that we're going to accomplish them, We may or may not have gotten to the place that we want. A lot of times, actually, we've surpassed those goals, but the way that we've gotten there has not been the way that we had originally planned. Because when you give your life to Christ and when you say, "Dear Jesus, please order my steps today," He'll do just that. And your way, your thought, the way that you believe that it should work, that's the last thing on His mind. The only thing on His mind is getting you from here to there the way He wants it done. There is a verse in Hebrews that we were to read at the end of the chapter, which they wanted us to read through Hebrews chapter 11, verses 1 through, I think it was 16. And for those of you that are familiar with that chapter or who have read through it, a lot of people call it the faith chapter. And they're going through and talking about how through faith, women and men in the Bible were able to overcome amazing obstacles, even when it wasn't in their original plan. By faith, Abel; by faith, Enoch; by faith, Noah; by faith, Abraham. All of these things that remind us in the Bible that these people did not intentionally plan to live their life the way that it ended up in the end, but they believed God's promises. But there's one thing that I want to leave you moms with before I stop this little thing. It's on chapter 11 in Hebrews, verse 13. It says this: "All these people were still living by faith when they died. They did not receive the things promised. They only saw them and welcomed them from a distance." Formulas promise great results. God's kingdom promises great results, but a lot of us think that those results are supposed to happen in our time and when we want them to and before we die. But that is never promised to us. We are promised ultimate healing and restoration once we get to heaven. Here on earth, that might not happen. We might do everything we possibly can to raise our children the way that God wants them to do. We have it all figured out. We've got the formula. We read the books. We've done it. And then they choose their own path. And then they're 18 and they get pregnant, or they're 14 and they come home and they tell you they have a same-sex attraction, or they're 4 years old and they're not following the method and they're still getting up at night. There are so many ways that we can figure out how we want this to work, but God's ways are bigger than our ways. And these people, not all of them in the Bible were able to see the results of their faith. It says they did not receive the things promised, but they saw them and welcomed them from a distance. And as a mom today, are you willing to still be faithful in the little things and still press on and do what God is calling you to do, even though you might not see the results at the time you want to see them? Thank you for checking with us again on the blog. If you have any questions or comments, I would love to talk to you. You can comment here, or you can go on over to our Facebook page. I have absolutely loved and really enjoy reading all your posts and getting to know you. I wish so much that I could sit down and have coffee with each one of you. I love you, moms, and my heart is for you, and I want to see us go through this together and encourage each other and uplift each other and keep the faith even when things don't go our way. Mwah.